Hey, my name is Craig Russo. You might know me from comics like Batman Beyond, Impulse, Parappanauts, Young Hellboy, and more. And I'm here to tell you that your childhood was trash if you didn't listen to Weird Al Yankovic.
When you said you wanted to pick Weird Al, like I told my partner, and she communicates with her large family all the time. I mean, they're gonna do an episode about Weird Al, and they're all super nerds, so they're like, Weird Al, that's awesome. Wait, I thought it was gonna be something completely different, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, we've literally said like anything before 2000s is on topic, and I think they just don't kind of like think about some of that stuff. But I
True.
know
'Cause
there's a lot of people who are excited to hear about Weird Al.
I think when people hear about the show, they shoehorn to like comics, cartoons, stuff like that, and we're like, no, it could be whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so Weird Al he's a lot.
Yeah. So tell us
He
what you
is
love about
the
Weird Al.
legend.
Yeah.
What don't I love about Weird Al? I mean, we're talking about like in the 80s. I still remember getting that first cassette tape, the Weird Al Yankovic cassette, and it really, spoke to me as a teenage nerd. Uh, and then when that was right after that one was when In 3D came out, and he had his Michael Jackson video parodies and stuff, and oh, I could not get enough of it.
So what was that first album that you picked up?
It was just called Weird Al Yankovic, and it had that song about Mr. Frump and his iron lung, and my friends and I just thought it was ridiculously stupid, and like I said, could not get enough of it.
Yeah, I think everybody who listens to Weird Al can't get enough of it. I think I came in a little bit after that. I had heard some of his stuff, but it was the one with Amish Paradise, and I'm drawing Bad Hair Day.
Yeah, it was definitely later.
And it just went backwards from that. I was like, all right, so I'm gonna run down to the local Strawberries, and I'm gonna you know what Strawberries is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know what Strawberries is, because I think Strawberries is a New England thing. I think it's the akin to Tower Records or Sam Goody elsewise in the country. And so I went down there because we actually had one in my local town, and I picked up at least 2 more CDs. Like basically I bought Bad Hair Day, brought it home, listened to it, fell in love with it, and then bought 2 more. One of them was the Food album, and which is just a compilation disc, and I forget what the other one was. But I think at some point in time in my life I've had the whole catalog.
I remember the music videos a lot when I was younger. I don't know if it's MTV or what, but like it was constantly playing like his the Fat music video.
Yeah,
I always love that when he's in like the jumpsuit, Michael Jackson's jumpsuit, and then he just starts blowing up and just getting bigger and bigger
because he's fat.
yeah.
You know,
is that how that works?
He's really fat.
And there was that whole time when he would take over MTV and he'd have Al TV, and he would just intercut his interviews with just fake footage, which was goofy fun.
And it's one of those things where like you turn on the TV and the same stuff is always on, you know. Yeah. I always remember that back in the day. It was constantly that was on. Michael Jackson's Thriller, and then like Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire. Those 3, not in a row, but it seemed like every time I turned the TV on when I was a kid and put on MTV, like one of those 3 were playing.
So Weird Al actually came up last year, and I turned on some of my nieces and nephews. Turns out they just started listening. They started watching all the music videos on YouTube, and I was like, "Yeah, this is it. Like, that's just start watching them." And so they did, and they started falling in love with them. and I think that was like over a year. That was about a year ago now, and they're still cranking it out, and they're like
Still rocking it.
They're middle school age, and like I think one of them is a freshman in high school. So Weird Al is rocking it out
through the ages.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen him live more times than I can count, really. And
Nice.
every
That's
time we
awesome.
go, there are families with kids. Like we've brought our kids who are, my son is now 18 and loves Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah.
Almost as much as I do. We actually got our picture
Nice.
taken with him at a concert, and we're going to get his autograph, but it was during COVID, so there was a weird curtain between us, and then they took a picture and they edited the curtain out so you could kind of look like you were standing next to Al.
He's one of those people who I think would be a blast to meet, mostly because I don't think he's grown up at all. There's a Disney cartoon called Hamster and Gretel, and he plays a character on that show. And you're like, no, that's definitely Weird Al Yankovic. And my 10-year-old who has started to, last year, he started to get into it. He's like, who? And I'm like, seriously? Do I have to explain this all to you again? He sometimes doesn't fit the pieces together. Once I explained who Weird Al was, and he's like, oh, how do you know that's him? And I was like, there's one dude on the planet that sounds like that. It's him.
Right.
It's one person.
He did a voice for a DC cartoon a couple years ago, and he was Animal Man and these little DC shorts, and that was very distinctively Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, he's been around. He's done countless things. As far as I could tell, the man just loves to entertain.
Yeah, for sure. And he definitely like solidifies himself in the pop culture even more than he needs to.
I think it would be harder to get rid of him now.
Exactly. I mean, he had a song.
For the most part, if I put the radio on in the car with the kids and I'm flipping channels, and I'm always like, well, that's a Weird Al song. He's parodied that. Oh, he's parodied that. I couldn't tell you the name of the original song anymore, but I could certainly tell you that he played "Stop Dragging My Car Around" or "Another One Rides the Bus" or Amish Paradise.
Another one rides the bus. And another one's going.
He took what we all did as kids and just made a career out of it, which is fantastic.
That's really it. I think honestly, he's a great topic because the reality is the man is still doing things, right?
Yeah.
He hasn't gone away, and I think I read a report that he's won Grammys in the past 5 decades.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
like, that's insane. Think about that. Most people haven't been recording music for 5 decades. Now, I'll say we live currently in an era that we're really kind of just running into these things now because we're living in a time where this is a possibility. It's still quite a feat, if you will, especially if your entire shtick is parodying other people's
to not only still be in it, but to still be in it doing what he does. And there's no one else that does it. Right? You have bands that do cover songs and they'll publish those, but not parodies. It's insane that he is literally unrivaled.
How he made a career out of it, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And he's been able to figure out how to, do it quickly. Find a song that's hot or it's going to be hot, and then he was able to release those albums with those songs fairly quickly. And actually, in the digital age, he was pretty much like, "Bam! I can get it done next week. Bam! Done."
Oh, that's you're not wrong. He did I think that's the other thing. He's been able to, the thing that's kept him alive so long is his ability to change with the times.
Yeah.
He's, every album is a mix. It's not like he doesn't pigeonhole himself into like, I'm only going to cover rock songs, or he's only going to cover this type of song. Amish Paradise was, I think, one of his bigger hits, especially in the 90s. And then everything like the controversy that surrounded that, Accidentally and all that stuff, but since
what was
then,
the controversy? I didn't hear anything about that.
So,
or was that something for a different day?
Well, so I mean, we're talking about Weird Al. So, Amish Paradise is a cover of Gangsta's Paradise, which is, it is what it is. And Coolio, that was like his baby, right? It was like one of the biggest songs to him, and there was like an MTV report or something like that where he talked about how Weird Al covered the song and he didn't approve it. And Weird Al was like, wait, hold on, what? You didn't approve my covering of your piece of art? I had no clue. Like, I was told that my people talked to your people and it was cool and I was okay to do this. I'm so sorry. Like, he apologized, and I think for a while he even stopped playing the song in live concert because of it. I think, or something along those lines. Like, mid-90s, late 90s MTV News with Kurt Loder is one of those things that I don't have like super recollection of, right?
Show your age.
Because I said Kurt Loder.
Yeah, or when MTV,
or MTV News.
Yeah. MTV News.
Yeah.
Plenty of those things.
Like, unrelated, Kennedy came up in a conversation the other day, and I said, I have not heard that name in a while. So, yes. Kurt Loder, MTV News, Kennedy. I guess she's gone full right-wing Fox News now from MTV, which was a unusual twist, but did not see that coming.
Of all the people from MTV, that would be like one of the people I wouldn't see that. Like, if somebody told me like Kurt Loder was like went straight right wing, I could probably believe that, right?
Yeah.
Or that other person, Tabitha, what's her face, I could see that, but not Kennedy. But
not
it is
Kennedy.
What it is.
Come on,
right?
No.
It was like the fun party one, wasn't like that. That was her shtick. Is I'm the kind of weird, goofy one, and and I think I've had satellite radio on and off for the past decade, and I think she had a satellite radio show as like a host. I know Downtown Julie Brown pops up as the music host every once in a while, and I'm like,
There's one station that has all the original VJs, like Alan Hunter, Downtown Julie Brown, and not Kennedy.
They kind of got their own pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, it was just this weird thing where he just, he didn't end up getting like the authorization to do it before he did the song. He felt super bad about it. And, Coolio, like apparently they, worked it out later in life, obviously. But there was a lot of turmoil, and I think it might be one of, if not the only time that he didn't get, approval from the artist to cover their song before, he did it. But
and he thought he had it. Yeah.
Yeah. And he totally did. Like, if there was a person to be like, look, I didn't realize, I am sorry. Like, I'll just stop playing the song. Like, it would be it would be Weird Al. I'd be like, I definitely believe that he had no clue. Like, he was definitely like, whatever really happened, we'll probably never know. But
I know they it's all water under the bridge before Coolio passed away, and I know that like Eminem said you could do the song, but I don't want a parody of the video for the song he did with that. And at one point, Prince was like, "No, I don't think so. No, we're good. We don't need a Weird Al cover of my song."
Which, I can see that, because Prince was Prince was eccentric, I think, is the correct word to use.
Yes, a genius to be sure, but eccentric.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But the dude was very eccentric. Kevin Smith tells a tale of how Kevin Smith straight up directed and produced an entire full-length music video that went into a vault and never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
And he's like,
did he say why?
Prince just, I don't know. Like the whole story, he tells it on one of his like DVDs that he like recorded. It's called An Evening with Kevin Smith, or it's like Evening Harder or whatever, one of the two.
Sure.
And he talks about it. They were like, and Jay straight up is like, so what happened? He's like, I don't know. I just never heard anything about it. He just like, oh yeah, and then like never heard anything else back. So to his knowledge and what he says, it's like it just went into a vault somewhere and just it's I don't know whether it got destroyed or not. Who knows? Because when Prince passed away, I would assume that somebody would have been like, I don't know, can we do something with this stuff? Like,
yeah, right.
I wonder how much stuff he has though. Like how much stuff is in the vault that Prince has either decided not to use or was going to do something with later, or who knows?
I think when Prince passed away, the Prince estate was like, I think everything went to his ex-wife or something. I don't know.
Ooh.
Well, no, like it was like his ex-wife was like his ex-wife, but also like his best friend or something like that. I'm gonna like. Somebody's out there is going to correct me who it went to. I apologize. I know it went to somebody who like it didn't go to a bad person. It was like the person he wanted it to go to right. It went to the person he wanted it to go to. So what else was in like the will and stuff like that, who knows, and what their directions were to do with it. Who knows? It's one of those things where it's like, I would love to see some of that stuff hit the light of day in 2025 or 24 or whatever, Let's find out what else happened to the Red Beret or the Strawberry Beret.
Yeah.
Raspberry Beret. Look,
we can go through all the flavors of yogurt before Nick gets
there we go. Between the Raspberry Beret and the Little Red Corvette, that we'll never know. Maybe there was a different color,
a specific shade of shades of color, huh?
Yeah, you like red.
Or purple.
Purple, yeah.
Which is really, it's got red in it, so I mean, it's just also got blue and other things. But
yes, again, I mean, it's not too far off from red, so he's still. It's acceptable.
It's not. Meanwhile, I wish Weird Al would do more music videos. I think it would also be hilarious for him to go back and redo some of his older songs into music videos like today.
Remaster them.
Yeah.
Not even remaster, like new ones.
Just redo new videos.
What were you saying, Craig?
Huh. I was going to say he had a biopic movie come out last year. Which was ridiculous, but it was awesome.
I've not seen it.
I'd love to see him do more of that. It was called like Weird, or was it Weird?
It's called Weird, the Al Yankovic story, it's Harry Potter playing Weird Al Yankovic,
and it was brilliant. The one thing about it that was annoying, it was on Roku, so they had constant commercial breaks. It really broke up the rhythm of it.
Oh,
it was the only way to actually watch it until it's showing up on Blu-ray later this year. So buy a copy when it's available.
It is.
Yeah,
good.
I did see a clip from it. I haven't seen the movie, but I saw a clip and I was dying laughing when Al's playing like the record executive.
Yeah,
and is it Dave Franco or someone? No. I forget the guy's name, but he's just like tearing Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al apart, just saying he sucks, he's never gonna make it. And Al's sitting there as the executive, like, hold on, I don't think he's that bad. Like, let's give him a chance. Like, it's
like it was very
it's meta.
I also haven't seen it. Every time it comes up as an option, I think it kind of just falls. It'll eventually hit the light of day because we'll run out of other things to watch. But I think part of my downfall is what you just said, Craig, is like it's available on Roku, and I was really hoping that they were like, all right, so we made this one thing, so we'll have either limited commercials or no commercials in it.
We'll have extra commercials.
Instead, they went the opposite with extras. But it was like in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie when Mike Myers played the record executive and told them and told Queen that you can't mix opera with rock. that was a. I love those Easter eggs. Is really what it comes down to. Is those?
Yeah, they're fun.
And it seemed like a lot of Al's contemporaries or even people who were influenced by him are in the movie. Like I know that a couple of the guys from Lonely Island show up. I think Jack Black's in it for a bit, and Rainn Wilson is in it, and it's who's who of comedians just in there for a bit part, and they're having fun with it. So it was definitely weird, but well worth it.
As the title suggests.
There's truth in advertising right there.
That's pretty cool.
Was it UHF?
Yeah.
No. UHF is in a strata all by itself. That really, I remember going to the theater to see that with probably like 3 other people in the theater when it came out, and loving every second of it.
The movie or the exclusivity of only 3 other people being there?
Well, no, definitely the movie. I was very upset that there were not as many people there because they were missing out on a great movie.
I remember watching that for the first time, and it was after Bad Hair Day came out because I was like, I'm sure I saw it on like cable TV or something like that and was like, I don't understand what this was. And then afterwards I was like, yes, I want to watch that all the time. So I rented it from the local Blockbuster a couple times and or another movie rental place, because at one point in time I think my town had like 4 of them in it, so it could have come from any one of them. But now I definitely have the DVD and I've watched it quite a few times.
I think the irony or the about the longevity of Weird Al, as we're talking about it, is that you can go back to some of his earlier albums or even UHF, and they're referencing things that my kids don't understand. Like, I don't know what UHF is. What does that even mean? Turn the dial. What dial? I don't get that. And then he'll reference these TV shows or songs or like Gilligan's Island, and no kid today has seen Gilligan's Island. They'll still find the song funny, but so many of his songs were so of the time that he has outlasted so many other cultural signifiers, which is kind of funny.
He's very on the pulse.
I almost want to say he kind of has to be, with the way, like, and as long as he wants to keep doing it, I don't think there's a single person who's like, ugh, Weird Al put out another album.
Yeah. Oh, not
everybody should be like, great, Weird Al put out another album. What polka collage did he do this time? But those were always one of my favorite ones, was because it was like a bunch of well-known songs that you kind of just know, and you're like, oh, and it takes you a second to realize because it's to a polka beat, and nobody other,
that stuff sometimes works really well. There's a band, I think it's called Pickin' On, and all they do is bluegrass covers of like popular songs, and they're phenomenal. So you never know what works until you try it or you listen to it or whatever. But definitely no one's playing the accordion like him. That's for sure.
Nope. There's two people in polka: Weird Al and Gus Polinski. That's it.
The famous Gus Polinski, huh?
Right. The polka king of the Midwest, buddy.
No,
get with the program. Come on.
Yeah, John Candy. Hey.
Polka. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's it. In polka, I mean, for all the people who actually listen to polka, just for the record, I'm sure there's other people out there, but in pop culture, that's it. That's all we've got. When I heard that they were doing a Weird Al movie, I was very skeptical about it. But then when you figure out what they're doing with it and how it's really just done exactly like you would expect a movie about Weird Al to be done, and you have, Daniel Radcliffe playing Weird Al, you're like, okay, well, I can get behind this. I can be happy about that.
Especially once you see him like as Al, it's like, okay,
yeah,
okay, I see. And that that stuff always blows my mind, how these casting directors can do it. How many times have you seen someone cast in a role and you're just like, this is terrible, but then
Michael Keaton as Batman? That's crazy. That's never going to work. He's Beetlejuice.
Heath Ledger is the Joker.
Yeah.
Stupid, horrible casting. It's gonna be the worst.
Turns out Michael Keaton in anything works. Okay, like
pretty much, yeah.
I'll watch anything.
We have multiple Michael Keatons. All right, we'll just call that multiplicity.
Yeah.
But what was it? On the biopic thing, Bohemian Rhapsody with Rami Malek, that was an amazing casting, and he did a great job. Afterwards, he said it took a while to get used to not talking with the mouthpiece in anymore after that, because he did so much of it with it. And I thought, what's his face, Taron Egerton or whatever. I always forget that dude's name.
Elton John.
The Rocket Man, that was a great one too.
Yeah,
I think.
And Elvis, that came out last year. The kid who played Elvis really became Elvis. It was kind of wild.
Yeah, I enjoy when they do that, and there was a couple other ones from say a decade ago. There was a few rap ones that came out, like Straight Outta Compton, Notorious, and
Straight Outta Compton's really good.
Straight Outta Compton was great. It was about NWA coming up, and Ice Cube was played by Ice Cube's son. I think they kind of cheated a little bit there with that one.
Less prosthetics.
But the internet thing going on around right now is that Pauly Shore should play Richard Simmons in a biopic. And I was like, what? So Pauly Shore posted something. They're like, look, he's like straight up like, I am trying to make this happen. Literally, if any streaming service wants to do this, I promise you I will be up for an award in 2025 if you pick this up and we can make it happen. And I was like, Pauly Shore, he's like, imagine you finding out that the Weasel in the 90s was going to play Richard Simmons in a biopic 25 years later, and he was all but guaranteeing that he was going to be nominated for an Oscar or an Emmy or whatever he said to do it. And I'm like, I would love to see him do that. I would love to see Pauly Shore come out of nowhere and be like, you know what? I played Richard Simmons so damn well. You're going to give me an award for it. And, other people have kind of done it. Like Robert Downey Jr. did it with Iron Man, right? He was like...
Yeah, he was rock bottom.
Yeah, he hit rock bottom for a long period of time and was like, I don't know if I'm going to ever act again or whatever. And he was any number of things. But then he came back and was like, here, let me just jumpstart what's going to be one of the largest movie cinematic experiences for the next forever long.
For
And,
forever, really, yeah.
And it's gonna be me, and it's gonna be Gwyneth Paltrow, and the movie is gonna be directed by the dude who did Swingers.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be a great movie. Yeah. Like, and then look where we're at now, like 40 movies later, you know.
Oh my God, yeah.
I never in my wildest dreams thought I would see like The Vision and Scarlet Witch in a movie.
Oh
or,
man.
Ant-Man headlining 3 movies? Like, that's insane. Totally insane.
Well, what kills me is I always liked Vision, right? And with the MCU, to me, it was getting saturated, and they needed to bring in new characters, and they finally did. And one of them was Vision. I was excited, and he lasted like 2.5 movies. And I'm like, you guys got to be kidding me! Like, finally, someone like I really like from the Avengers era or Avengers like continuum, whatever. And you guys got him off.
Because let's be clear, Vision was super badass in that arcade game, right? Where
dude, that's exactly why. Lasers. That's exactly why. I used to choose him all the time.
Yeah, it was him, Hawkeye, Iron Man,
Captain America. That was my biggest thing. Like I would always play him. Yeah, they killed him off.
But Paul Bettany did such an amazing job at playing Jarvis for a long period of time.
He did fantastic, yeah.
He did. And then then the fact that they actually were like, all right, so you're just going to put on the Vision costume and it's going to be you still. And I'm glad they did that, as opposed to like Paul Bettany was the voice, but then they needed a live actor. So they did something else. Like, I was worried about that for a hot minute. And then, I'm glad they didn't do that. Hollywood does some weird stuff, and sometimes actors want weird things.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give them credit for that though, like bringing him into that role, instead of recasting it or voiceover or something like that. He probably hated it because he had to be in that, the motion capture and all that stuff and makeup, whereas before he didn't have to leave his house and just sat in a booth and recorded his lines. But it's good on them for doing that.
Are you kidding me? I think he probably had a blast with it. They were like, all right, so we want to capture you as Vision. He's like, great. I'm not sitting around.
I don't know.
Because at least, I don't know. At least with other people around, you get to play off of them and stuff, as opposed to, just sitting in a room and recording your stuff. Like, a lot of voice actors are kind of like, some of them like working from home and they can record their audio and they can do whatever. But if you talk to them, a lot of them are like, yeah, it was great being in the recording studio and like all that other stuff that used to happen back in the 90s. But that was probably primarily because, internet wasn't a thing like it is now. So
information moved a lot slower.
Yeah, it moved a lot slower. Everybody had the Encyclopedia Britannica on their shelf, all 65 books of it. Everybody had a bookshelf just entirely dedicated to that. And then you didn't get updated when new things happened because you didn't want to go out and spend all the money on a new Encyclopedia Britannica.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, but it's the stuff has massive benefits. Like, I'm going to use Craig here for an example. Like a couple days ago, you posted that picture, that commission you did for Up. And I was like, that's gorgeous. 20 years ago, I never would have seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. But so it has pluses and minuses. Like right now, everybody works remote. Right. Like, yeah. Like I don't mind working remote. Every once in a while, I'm like, hey, I would like to go hang out with the people at work. But then I remember
you don't like the people at work.
I don't like them really.
No, it turns out I live closer to them, and it would be worse for all of us to drive to work to talk to each other. Like, we all live like above Manchester. So it's like for us to have driven to Manchester, it would be dumb. It would be easier for us to all just go to like somebody's house with our laptops and just work at somebody's house for a day.
Oh,
I mean, before before the internet, I used to have to fax paper sketches off to Marvel or DC, and then they would send me a FedEx box with a script in it, and they'd send the boards in it, and then I'd have to FedEx those back into the office, and like we need pages as soon as possible, so just FedEx them like 5 at a time. So I'd have to go to the FedEx office, 4 or 5 times just for every issue, and then I have to run out and make photocopies. And at one point, I actually bought a used photocopier to have on hand, and nowadays it's just all boop from my iPad. I can just send that right off. So yeah, it's certainly been a crazy leap in technology, and it's affected comics and pretty much everything. But you can work anywhere, you can work with anyone around the world, and communication is instantaneous.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. Mike, you finish.
You finish,
and then I'll say my thing.
Like technology changing that side of the business, like I know a lot of artists have pivoted to like digital drawing now because of iPads and like the Cintiqs and all that. But I never
Instagram.
I never thought of it. Instagram. I never thought of it from like that kind of business aspect side of things, which is interesting.
Yeah, the whole physical aspect of oh shit, I got to run to Kinko's to get copies. I have to get this to the FedEx, and I have to figure out where the last FedEx box is. I used to live in Quincy, and I remember having 3 different locations that were within a half hour of each other, so I knew which one I could get to before the last shipment of the day. And I remember friends who lived there would actually drive to Logan Airport to get it on the plane to get it to New York first thing in the morning. So it was crazy how much they spent on just shipping artwork back and forth, because pencils would be done and then they had to be sent into the office, and they might be sent out to a letter and then back to the office and then back to the inker, and it's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
I have so many more questions now that I know you used to FedEx and used to FedEx and fax stuff back and forth between Marvel and sending the pay. It's one of those things where you don't ever know how the bread is made or whatever that, euphemism is. And it's like, oh, I never thought about that, but you're right. And now I have I want to deep dive into that, but I feel like that's a different conversation for a different day.
That is a different, but there would be people, they'd make photocopies because you never know. Sometimes artwork would just vanish on the way to or from Marvel.
Oh, jeez.
Inkers would have to, work over photocopies or whatnot, or the box would get just mangled but yeah, a whole different story right there. So
I'm glad FedEx hasn't changed their box mangling policy, though. Ace Ventura playing that up like nobody's business. When I showed that to the 10-year-old, he's like, what is going on? And I was like, okay, so this is the thing. The box, it's like the Amazon driver coming up the house. Except instead, he's walking an absurdly long distance holding a box that clearly does not sound like whatever's inside is safe. But this is how boxes used to get to us because, things have changed, and it's not just FedEx that damages boxes now. It's everybody across the board.
They all got together and said, listen, we need a standard.
Yeah. We can't go above a certain percentile of boxes damaged, otherwise our reputations are damaged. Not like the boxes, not like that, but now I wonder if My brain's spinning like how the music industry worked back then and like that stuff. Like, is that how, like, would they have to send some of that stuff around and like,
If
I
they
don't know.
weren't recording in the same studio, yeah. And okay, I'll tie it back in a little bit. Just 2 weeks ago, I saw Death Cab for Cutie was playing in Boston, and
Oh, nice.
opening for them was the Postal Service, which was actually the lead
Yes.
singer Ben Gibbard, and
Yep.
that album. The only album they put out was 20 years ago, and the reason they called it the Postal Service is they would record these tapes and send them back and forth through the mail, and that's how they put the whole thing together. And nowadays, you just upload a file to Dropbox and then, or whatever. So it was a product of its time for sure.
Why do I feel like Ben Gibbard would actually still do that? If they were going to make a second album, I feel like that's exactly what they would do.
I mean, they got to stay on brand. They have to stay on brand at this point.
Can't change it up. What are they going to do? All right, guys, we change your name from Postal Service to Dropboxy.
Yeah.
It's like Death Cab for Cutie, but it's Death Cab for Dropbox or something. I don't know. The number of people I know that were at that concert is growing every other day. I think I'm up to like 12 people now.
Oh wow.
Jeez.
The other, like, Shinedown apparently played locally recently, like a few days ago, and I know I'm up to like 6 people that I know that went to that concert. Just so we're clear, none of them went with each other. It's all separate parties. So like for example, you being one of the 12 that I know went to the the Death Cab for Cutie concert, I don't know who else you went with, but chances are they're not one of the dozen or so.
I would tend to doubt,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So it was like friends, like in their partners or whatever, and I'm just counting them as like one, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 12 different groups of people I know that went to that concert because it was all like onesie twosie people. It wasn't like everybody. It wasn't like Artist Alley and the Armory went together, right? That's like 7, right? It was like one. It was, but I heard it was an amazing show. I've seen video and stuff like that, and I was super jealous of everybody who did go because I still love the Postal Service album. It was far ahead of its time in what it did.
It was. I was really super excited to see Death Cab because I hadn't seen them ever, and I was looking forward they were playing Transatlanticism because that was also the 20th anniversary. But I was looking forward to the Postal Service, and I thought that performance was even better than Death Cab. And my girlfriend really didn't have a huge interest in going, but she humors me by going to some of these shows. And afterwards, she said, I like that a lot more than I thought I would, especially the Postal Service. And we had thought we would miss them because there was the line out the door. It took almost a half hour to get in to the venue. And the show was supposed to start at 8, and we didn't get in until like 8:40 because the line was stupid. And then Death Cab started the setup, and I thought, well, they started right at 9. I thought, well, if they're at 9, then Postal Service probably went on at 8, so I think we missed them. But then they switched it up, and the Postal Service came on after. And
nice.
And it was a fun time was had by all.
I absolutely hate long lines getting into concerts.
I hate long lines, period.
Yeah, let's be clear. I also hate long lines, period. But getting into concerts, it's a weird difference. Like a long line at a convention and a long line at a concert are just weirdly different, and I don't know how to put my finger on it.
Well, I feel like this was our conversation, is that they really should have a line for people who could arguably be in the AARP, where like, we don't really need to show you our ID because we're old enough to be like your grandparents, but we have to go through the motion of them looking at our ID and then chuckling and giving us the wristband and all. But like that would save time if I could just skip that whole step right there. But what are you gonna do?
It's like a fast lane.
Fast lane for older people.
The old person fast lane. I'll take it.
Just hold up your subscription to AARP magazine addressed to you. That's your ID.
You're good.
Yeah,
I'm going to cycle this all thing right back. Is that all these concerts I've been doing? I have made these quote unquote just for me concert posters where I don't buy concert T-shirts anymore. I don't buy posters. I don't buy merch at the table, but I make my own posters because they're fun, and I would just make one-offs, and I've been doing it now for like 5 years, and I'm doing a Kickstarter collecting all of these books, a book of the first 30 of them, but I think at least 2, maybe 3 are Weird Al Yankovic posters in there, so it all comes around.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I don't think a band has ever said you can't do that, or they didn't like it. If I post it online, sometimes they'll repost it or tweet it. Or Bob Mould was playing at a local venue, and I said, "Could I make posters and sell them and split the money?" And he said, "Sure." So that was kind of fun. I got to meet him, and
yeah, why not?
It's a fun hobby.
I mean, if you have the capability of doing it, and you do.
Yeah. And I got Weird Al Yankovic to sign the one I did while I was at the Rhode Island Comic Con when he was a guest there.
Oh, that's cool.
See, it all comes back to Weird Al Yankovic.
That is pretty cool.
we have the capability of doing that in a lot of times. It's where we go off on some tangent, and if you go on enough tangents, then you come back to the original point.
All roads lead back to
Weird Al.
Starting point. It's Weird Al. Yes.
Probably tied Weird Al into most of our episodes so far. In reality, I'm sure like the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, except it's probably better because it's Weird Al. Right. Nothing against Kevin Bacon. Nothing against Kevin Bacon. He was great.
If you can connect to Judy Tenuta, right, or Emo Phillips, and then you go from there. It's a much weirder 6 Degrees.
True.
Dr. Demento.
That was so long ago.
Yeah.
That was so long ago. Now that you brought up Emo Phillips. I forget what show it was or something. But he was taught. Now this is like, keep in mind, this is like the 90s / early 2000s. He was on some sort of interview or something like that, and he's like, "Yeah, I get these weird residual checks for UHF every once in a while, and it's like 20 cents, 25 cents." And then, now in 2023, SAG-AFTRA is, striking for, ironically, that exact reason. Or not ironically, but, unfortunately for that same exact reason. In emo, just hear that in Emo Phillips sound, where he's like getting his checks for cents for this weird movie he had made, 15 years earlier for whatever he got paid for back before, everything became like super popular. Because I don't think anybody, Weird Al included, could have predicted, the success of that movie, or that 50 years later he'd still be touring and
yeah, right,
selling out venues and singing Fat. Does he? I've actually never seen Weird Al in concert, and I don't know the last time you saw him, Craig. But does he still do like the massive number of like costume changes?
Well, he has then he did. I'd seen him. I lost count of how many times I've seen him do those costume changes in the fat suit and video things. And he did one tour a couple years ago where it was just him and the band, and they did a lot of the songs that weren't covers, the original compositions, and it was
Yeah.
like the self-indulgent blah 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 tour, and then he went back and did like another big kind of concert with orchestras, and I think he had costume changes on that one, and then he's gone back to just doing another round of the self-indulgent tour without the costumes. I think, for a guy who's in his 60s, it was a lot of work to go and change costumes.
It's gotta be exhausting. Run around stage Jesus.
Like that. That's why I asked. But I was like, look, if he's still doing it, even more power to him. I feel like, again, if there was a dude who could still pull it off in his 60s, it would probably be him.
Mm-hmm.
Of all of the possible artistic outputs, right? It's the one that is most commonly seen as probably a serious tone. And then Weird Al was like, what if I just flip it upside down? What if everything is a joke? And who knows? Maybe my reason for making everything a joke, even when I shouldn't, comes entirely from Weird Al. Maybe he's to blame for all this. I don't know. I can't blame the guy because I've never met him, but at least I don't have to take ownership of my own faults at that point. So, but no, like that's it. Is like he flipped it upside down, and then like you mentioned, Lonely Island earlier, and they've done an amazing job at kind of poking their own fun at it, right?
Sure, yeah.
So, and I enjoy Lonely Island probably way more than most people admit. Still, between the two of them, actually, I probably have half their song. I have like half a dozen songs that cycle through my head on a. It's that earwig that people get. Mine just happened to be less serious songs, or like weird jingles from commercials.
I was out with my son, and he was talking to a friend, and he asked him, like, what is your favorite song if you had to pick one off the radio that you listen to? And my son would drive to work down at the beach every day for summer, and he would listen to 50s on 5 or 50s Gold as they changed their name on Sirius XM. And I said, without even missing a beat, he's like, you know what? I think my favorite song is by Phil Harris, and it's called The Thing in a Box. And, Phil Harris is the guy who did the voice of Baloo the bear in
nice.
The Jungle Book.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It is a very campy, corny predecessor to Weird Al Yankovic. It is a ridiculous song, but that's where he sticks. So he's like, I like that kind of genre of music, so it fits right there.
Nice.
So it's been going on since like the 50s. So
I was today years old when I found out Baloo the bear sung real songs.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're kind of campy for sure. That one is, but check it out.
It's got the bare necessities. So
now they have like all sorts. Sometimes the people do the singing, but sometimes you don't want them to, and that's okay. We now have the capability of having multiple people do different things. Whereas I don't want Weird Al to do multiple things. I don't want somebody to pretend to be Weird Al, except Harry Potter.
Someone does a voiceover of Weird Al when he's singing and stuff. Right. I can see him doing something like that in like a movie, like a musical number starts to break out and it's not his voice singing.
Is that weird? Is that weird too?
He was in a music video where he lip synced a song, and Weezer covering Africa with Weird Al. Sounds kind of on point.
What's the best is that Weezer covered Africa, and then Toto turned around and covered a Weezer song.
They did. They did. It was so good. Around the same time, either like right before or right after that, 311 and Offspring covered each other's songs and put out like a 7-inch record for it.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that's an interesting mashup. So, Craig, if you had to pick your favorite Weird Al song, what would you pick?
Ooh, man,
Or
that is a tough
or
one.
a top few if you can't
loaded
pick
question,
one.
Nicholas.
How's it loaded?
Because it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. Let's be clear. Yeah, no, it is tough. There is a
pretty
lot.
fly for a rabbi, right? Right, Craig?
pretty fly for a rabbi. Well, let's see. Let me see. I really go back to some of the older ones, like My Bologna was
Oh yeah,
right there. But then there's so many good ones. Like man, you're killing me. I should have thought about this before I got on the podcast, because I knew it was about Weird Al. But like White and Nerdy really is one of my favorites.
Oh, that's a
White
good one.
and Nerdy, yeah.
White and Nerdy, and some of his really long ones, like Albuquerque, just kills me every time I hear it. It goes on for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that.
White and Nerdy, I was actually surprised by you saying, not because I don't think you'd like it, but it's like some of the newer stuff, and I don't know. That also kind of flew under a lot of people's radar, weirdly. Like, people are like, wait, he covered that song? And I'm like, yeah, it was phenomenal.
Well, it was really because he did that music video with Donny Osmond, and they're both
true.
doing this crazy rap. But every time I saw him live since that album came out, he would come out on his Segway and sing. And ridiculous, but on point.
Yeah, no, White and Nerdy, that was like, that came back hard when I started listening to it, and I was like, man, I forgot how much I really enjoyed this stuff, and it kind of triggered me going back into like Weird Al, and then I just never stopped again.
Right.
But Dare to Be Stupid, like Mike said earlier, I think that's because I was young enough when the Transformers movie came out that I didn't realize what that was. And then once all the pieces fit together, it made complete sense. And when I actually have the Transformers like soundtrack album, I was like, man, this is amazing. It is. So Dare to Be Stupid is like up there for me. Like, all the music videos are absolutely great. But I was gonna say the Saga Begins is another one.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is it's easier to name songs that you're kind of like, you know what, that one didn't vibe with me. But there are just quite a few songs that you're like, you know what, I'm not memorizing all of those song names.
Yeah, there are a lot. If you go back to his first album all the way up through the last one, was it Mandatory Fun? Was his last one, maybe? I think so. It was like his contractually obligated final album. So once he was done having fun, he's like, I'm out. That's it. I'm out of my contract now.
That's a great name for an album, though.
Yeah. And the fact that like all of his albums would usually have 4 or 5 songs that parodied other songs, but then a polka or two, whatever, and some original songs, but a lot of original songs that were in the style of a band, and he was able to pick up like, I'm not actually doing a Nine Inch Nails song, but if I was, it would sound kind of like this. Or, I'm going to do a Devo song, and that's Dare to Be Stupid. Or, there was one song that was the Pixies, and another song was Southern Culture on the Skids, and one was They Might Be Giants. And the Foo Fighters, you could hear all of where he's getting all this in there. So, I mean, like, as a musician, he is far more talented than a lot of people give him credit for.
I think that's a fairly true statement, especially for the subsect of people who don't actually like Weird Al. They're like, it doesn't take effort to just copy somebody else's song. Hold on. He doesn't just copy it, right? It's not like your TikTok video where you're just lip syncing or you've made up dumb words to the same exact song.
Yeah.
He literally has to reconstruct the entire song, and it's not like sure, some of the chords are like a lot of the chords are there and stuff is there, but it's not like he's just recording over their song. Like he puts his own twist on all of it.
Yep.
And when you said mandatory fun, I pulled it up and I was like, oh yeah, tacky. Tacky was a good one, but I also liked happy way more than I probably should as an adult, but whatever. He is very talented as a musician. I think other musicians definitely give him a lot of credit, and like I'm glad that they do that. At least a lot of people have come out and said that they give him a lot of credit, and like the people he's covered, are kind of on board with all of it and stuff like that. So that's always good when you have the support of the people, in your world, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just pulled up my iTunes library, and one of the most recent ones that I got a big kick out of was this the polka he wrote. That was the Hamilton polka, and it took snippets of lyrics from the Hamilton musical, and he made like a 5-minute musical montage of Hamilton songs. So I was sitting there.
Play that.
I think you should.
That's
if you haven't
cool.
heard it, my daughter, who was very big into Hamilton, I'll start playing it, and she'll just roll her eyes, but she'll laugh, and it's funny. So I think Al and Lin-Manuel Miranda are friends of each other, or mutual admiration, so to speak. So I think he was
see that.
Honored to have Weird Al turn his musical into a polka.
I mean, I think that's one of those things where I think after the first couple of decades, it became like a weird badge of honor to have Weird Al cover one of your songs, because that's when you've kind of made it. Is you're like, oh, no, this guy. Like, we go back to the MTV playing music and news and all that other stuff, and like there's a number of artists even back in like the 90s and early 2000s who were like, yeah, that's how I knew that I made it, is because Weird Al was like, hey, can I cover your song, or can I parody your song? And I was like, hell's yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it, or whatever, but that's kind of, and I think that still kind of holds true. I mean, that's like he was selective. It wasn't like he did everything. So
yeah, and he cast a wide net, right? I think that's the biggest thing, is no one was untouchable to him.
Right.
He unless they said no, in which case they.
Oh no, I don't mean that. I mean, like it's not like he's stuck to like country music or classical or classic rock or whatever. Everyone was on the chopping block for him, and that's I think that's
everybody was fair game.
Yeah, as long as they were cool. There you go. Yeah,
right.
And that's a testament to like what he was capable of, and like his talent,
It's true. Him and his whole team, that type of longevity and everything, you got to have a really good supporting cast, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You're only as good as the people you keep around you, right?
As a person who's kept a lot of weird people around him for probably way too long in my life, I can assure you that is a very true statement. Now, having not seen the first one, Craig, did they leave it open for a second movie?
Well, I mean,
I don't know where the movie ends.
You have to watch it and find out.
You'd have to watch and find out. They certainly could do a sequel, and it would just be ridiculous. But
awesome.
I'd say watch the first one first.
Well, I mean, I will.
Because I don't want to spoil the ending. I don't want to spoil the big surprise. Or lack thereof. You never know.
I appreciate the description.
The vague description at the end there, yeah.
Well, you got to keep in mind, Nick, is that this movie is based on his story. It's not like a exact retelling. So
You mean to tell me he didn't date Madonna?
no,
or whatever that thing is.
I'm pretty sure that's canon. I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
I mean, it's in the movie, so I think it's canon now at this point.
So just like Prince named Carmen Electra, what little known fact, Weird Al named Madonna. He's like, Madonna, that's your name. Can you imagine? That would have been fantastic. So
I don't know what's weirder about that sentence. The fact that you pulled out naming Carmen Electra or Weird Al possibly naming Madonna. I don't know anymore.
Listen. No. But what I want to know more of is Craig, you said you did a Weird Al comic last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that.
Excuse me. Z2 Comics, who do a lot of music-based comics, did an anthology called The Illustrated Al. And it was, I don't know how many artists took Weird Al's lyrics and actually illustrated them, hence the name. And were given pretty much the lyrics and said, how many pages do you think you need? And just do it. And they announced the book, and I said, that's something I want to do. And I never do this, but I reached out and I said, I'm a huge fan. I've been a fan since his first album, but I've actually done some Weird Al stuff for Disney Magazine years and years ago, some comic strips. And I said, I'd love to just do a pinup
Disney
or anything.
Magazine?
Yeah, there was a little like comic strip I did where Weird Al in Disney Magazine, which is a digest size thing that was on grocery stores.
Yeah, I used to get those all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Disney Adventures, yeah.
Oh, continue with your Weird Al story for the comic. But...
Okay, so then I just emailed them and said, if I could do a pinup or whatever. And they said, well, let me run you by Al's people first. And they said, well, sure, we'd love to have you do a story. So they gave me a list of songs to pick from. And then once I picked it, they said, how many pages do you need? I said, I'll do it in 5. And I did an adaptation of Melanie, which is a heartwarming song about a guy who stalks this woman who lives in the building next door to her, harasses her, terrorizes her, and eventually commits suicide.
Oh, it's a tale of love.
So, yeah. And it actually won the Ringo Award in Baltimore for the best comedy humor comic book this year. So there you go.
That's
congrats.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I had no part in winning that, but I'll gladly take it.
As people who are fans of things, we want more content of the things we like. Like for example, if Weird Al put an album out today, I would probably be just as excited now as I was 30 years ago, bringing home Bad Hair Day for the first time, and then the Food album, and popping them into my portable CD player and listening to them on the bus.
Oh, jeez.
On my way to school and after school, and
gotta make sure it has the anti-skip on though.
Obviously, you couldn't listen to that thing without the anti-skip. If it didn't have anti-skip, you knew that thing was janky.
Yeah.
And then coming home, and my family had one of those like old faux wood stereo systems with like a record player and a cassette player and stereo. It didn't have a CD player, but I had the portable CD player, so I just had an audio cable, like a Y cable that plugged into the input on that, so I could listen to my CDs. That's because it didn't have a CD player. It was cassettes and records only. But it's stuff like that. So I would be just as excited about that. Heck, I'd be excited for him to put out another cartoon. I'd watch that in a heartbeat.
He did one on Disney Disney one of the Disney Channel, I guess. He was the voice of the main character for like 3 seasons. My kids loved watching it, and you know, my son was like 15 at the time or 14.
Milo Murphy's Law.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep.
That's it exactly.
That I knew. So I'm a massive Disney fan. Like you probably don't know this, but I talk about it. Those who know me know I'm a massive Disney fan. So all of those cartoons that are like, yeah, kids watch that. I was like, I have that on in the background. I've had it on. Like I put Disney on in the background all the time. It legit just, it's either that or like the Food Network. That's my background TV. People put on, you know, Friends for background noise, or Supernatural, which is what a couple of people I know who do that while they're doing designing and stuff like that. Nope, I got Disney on in the background. So watching, you know, Olivia Rodrigo be on Bizaardvark for years before she became an actual singer. You know,
nice.
Yeah.
Hey, Disney launched 1,000 careers, right? More than that, I'm sure.
I would, I'd probably say way more than that, but you know. But yeah, when I heard Weird Al, when I like the TV show popped on, and I was like, I know that voice.
That's Weird Al Yankovic.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's kind of it. Yeah,
that sounds familiar. But all right, Craig. I think we're at the end of our time for today. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it. But before you go, tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going on, and definitely a little bit of info.
Okay. My website is craigrousseau.com, and most of my social media is at Craig Russo.
We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. It was a lot of fun.